Hey guys, welcome back to Gingerbread Aquatics with Andrew. Today, I'll be talking about my top 10 fish that I keep in a 10-gallon aquarium, but also not exclusively to a 10-gallon aquarium. I think they could go in a 10-gallon, a 20-gallon, a 30-gallon, a 40-gallon. You just keep larger schools. Make sure to stick around to the end, and I'll talk about some of my tank ideas that I'd have using some of these different fish that I include on this list. Also, one other thing. If you haven't subscribed already, I'd greatly appreciate that, and hit that like button if you appreciated the fish that I told you guys about in this video. Alright, let's get into it. So my first fish that I would recommend, if you guys have been around this channel at all, you would, I think, have a decent idea of what it would be, and my number one choice would be Celestor Prodanios. But also, along with that, the lesser known fish that is very similar to Celestor Prodanio is the Emerald Dwarf Rasbora, and they are from the same species, Danio, and it's just Danio margiatus and Danio erythromicron, which is the dwarf Emerald Rasbora. So those two would be, I think, great fish to keep in a 10-gallon tank. I think anywhere between 10 to 14 in there in a well-planted tank would be excellent, and that would be a great choice for your 10-gallon tank. My number two fish that I would keep in my 10-gallon tank, which I have kept before, is a pea puffer. I just want to personally keep a single pea puffer, and I would like to keep some other fish with it. But I think having just a single pea puffer in your 10-gallon tank, even though you could do more, will definitely get a lot of eyes turning to it, and when they see a tiny little pea puffer, and they're pretty easy to care for. I've used blackworms to feed them, frozen blackworms, frozen bloodworms. I've also used my live whiteworm cultures to feed them and haven't had many problems with keeping them. They also do a pretty good job of keeping in check all of the snails if you have them in your tank and you don't want them. They also really appreciate a nice planted tank. My third choice would be a pair of Neolamprus multis, or Neolamprologus multifasciatus. I would also say that you could keep some of the other lesser known species, but again, only you want to keep a pair in there. Brevis, a pair of Brevis would be good. A pair of Similis would also be good. And soon enough, you'll have your own colony of Brevis, Neolamprologus multifasciatus, or the Similis. So I think if you really want to keep some African cichlids in a tank, I think that those would be the best fish to actually keep in a 10-gallon tank. And again, they are fantastic fish with a great personality, and they love just bulldozing around all the sand and shells that you have. So I would highly recommend that. I've done that one before, and it's a great tank to just watch and take in. Also, if I have sparked any ideas in your head about some other fish that you think are a good idea for a 10-gallon tank, let me know in the comments below so that I can figure out what else would be pretty cool to keep in a 10-gallon tank, as well as anybody that would be watching this in the future can scroll down to the comments and check out to see what other people recommended for a 10-gallon tank. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Alright, my number 4 fish for a 10-gallon tank would be Harlequin rasboras. Again, another fish that I'm keeping currently, and hence why I like them so much. I think they are a great fish to have in schools of... I've kept them in 4. Other people say you want to keep them a little bit larger, but I haven't noticed any issues. They school up and are doing very well in my tank. I've had them in a 5-gallon tank, I've had them in a 10-gallon tank, I have them in my 30-gallon tank right now. So I think a school of those, I probably wouldn't go more than 6 or 8 in a 10-gallon, but I think that would be a great fish. The colors on there just pop so well with a green tank with a silver and blue body. So my number 4 choice would be Harlequin rasboras. My number 5 choice is going to be Endlers. I think Endlers are just so fascinating and so interesting that they're smaller, for the males at least, and they just have a very distinct body shape. Usually the Endlers have a flaring bottom part of their dorsal fin, in comparison, like a trailer almost, or a streamer. So I really like those. I sort of fell in love with them when my professor in college kept them in his classrooms, and everyone would be like sneaking a look over their shoulders on the tanks of the back wall while he was lecturing. And it was always great to see the different types. He had Green Star, he had Black Bar, he had, I can't even remember all the ones. He had 4 or 5 different colonies of Endlers. I think Endlers are great. I think they're a great fish and a different alternative to guppies if you don't really want to keep guppies. My number 6 is actually not a fish, but it's shrimp. Particularly some Neocaridina, like cherry shrimp, or other color morphs of that. My dad has actually really gotten into keeping shrimp, and he's keeping 3 tanks, I think, right now of just shrimp. He has a yellow line, a blue line, and a red line, and he's loving those as much as he is loving his community tank in the 55-gallon, his African cichlids, and another 55-gallon, his guppies in the 20-gallon. Like, he's just loving his shrimp only tank. So I would also suggest shrimp, which is a little different to use a 10-gallon tank just strictly for shrimp, but I think a shrimp only tank planted would be absolutely phenomenal. It would be a great, just eye-popping piece to having those yellows or those blues or those reds in that planted tank. So that's my number 6 choice. Not a fish, but a shrimp. My number 7 fish would be the rice fish. I think that those are a very good fish to have in a 10-gallon tank. They have a lot of different colors, a lot of different color morphs, a very unique breeding pattern, breeding habits where the females have the eggs on their anal fins and go around to deposit them on the leaves, which is very atypical breeding habit for fish. And they come in a variety of color morphs, platinum, blues, reds, all of that. So if you're looking for a fish that is different in terms of breeding, that would be a good fish to put in your 10-gallon tank. So rice fish. My number 8 is an oldie but still a goodie. I think neon tetras. Like, how can you not go wrong with having a school of 10 neon tetras swimming around in a planted tank, or swimming around with, say, your betta, or even just if it's a SpongeBob tank and with pink gravel and whatnot. I think those fish would be a fantastic fish to have in there, because that blue line can just be seen across almost anywhere in the room, and it just is just a good pop of color. So that's my number 8, is neon tetras. Conventional, but I mean, there's a reason why there are so many sold and so many around, because they are such a beautiful fish. So my number 9, I've kept them actually in a 5-gallon and a 10-gallon and then a 20-gallon, are pygmy corridoras. I think they're a great size for a small tank, and they definitely keep the size scale of the tank to a minimum. You don't get a huge cory cat like an albino or stir-by, but you get like 1.5 inch cory cat going along the bottom with some of your other fish that you have in there. So I think pygmy cory cat or Hasbrosis cory cats are 2 very good options if you want to have, say, a bottom dweller in your 10-gallon aquarium. And finally, the one that I think would be super cool to have in an aquarium would be threadfin rainbows. They aren't a very conventional fish to see in the hobby, or that I have seen in stores and whatnot, but I think they are absolutely great. They have fantastic streamers on the males, and when they flare up and are sparring, the movement of their fins is just so cool, and they will just do circles and laps around your tank. And they are pretty small. They only get to about maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. That's what my threadfin rainbow topped out at in my tank, was about 2 inches tops. So that's my number 10 fish for my 10-gallon aquarium. So getting to some tank ideas with these that I mentioned. So I've mentioned a couple top dwellers, I mentioned a couple mid swimmers, some bottom dwellers, and some bottom ground huggers. So I would recommend basically the tank that I have here. I love my Harlequin rasboras. I would put 4 or 6 of those up top, and they'll swim around in that 10-gallon tank. And then you would have on the bottom, you could have your pygmy corridoras or your Hasbrosis corridoras, as well as some shrimp, as well as some Celestia Prodanius. I don't think that is overstocked at all. I think that having all those they're relatively small fish, they're not going to be producing a lot of waste. So long as you're managing your feeding well, I think that you could keep those in a 10-gallon tank and it would look stunning. Another good tank that I would say would also be having your threadfin rainbows, which are more of a mid-ground, mid-lower fish. You could keep those in that area of the tank, as well as keeping, say, a betta if you want to. That would be another really good combo. That I didn't mention a betta in this, but I think that would be a very good fish to also have in a 10-gallon tank, with having some of these other ones that I mentioned, like the Celestia Prodania or the Emerald Dwarf Rasbora. Those two would be some really good options for that betta to have companions with. So if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you leave a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day.